welcome to another episode of Pink Perspectives, powered by the Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dana Johnson, and joining me today is my guest, Karen Camara. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
So just a little bit of a backstory of how Karen and I became acquainted and how I invited her to have a seat at the table with me today is we connected through BGR, which is abbreviated for Black Girls Run. And as our journey continued through that experience here in Milwaukee, we also came to know through our Making Strides with Breast Cancer connection that she knew my mom. So Milwaukee, and I'm sure in your walks of life, from wherever you may be joining us, is that I truly believe in 6 degrees of separation. Who would have thought that us being acquainted through our adult life and rediscovering our health and wanting to get out and be more active through running, that she would have a connection with me via my mom. So those kind of sparked our conversation and bridged a friendship, if you will. So that's why I invited Karen to have a seat at the table and join me for the conversation. So thank you again for joining me.
Sure.
So first off, Karen, I'd like if we could just start from the beginning. If you could just kind of walk me through your breast cancer diagnoses and the effect that it had on you and your loved ones.
All right, so in 2000, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I remember it so vividly because I went to work and we were having a meeting. So since I got there late, I'm sitting on the floor, and all while they were talking, I'm saying to myself, the doctor just told me that I have breast cancer. They didn't really know what was going on, but that's all I kept thinking about was I had breast cancer. So I went through everything that I had to do, but I really felt blessed because I had the chief radiologist, I had the top surgeon at that time, it was Columbia, and I just felt comfortable. There was a nurse navigator who worked with me, and she was great. So at that time it was stage 0,
Okay.
and I just went through a mastectomy. Didn't have to have chemo, didn't have to have radiation. Then I'm on with my life. So 2015, I was diagnosed with breast cancer again. And at that time, I was mad. I wasn't scared, I was just mad because why am I getting breast cancer again?
Yes.
I got past that. This time it was stage 2. And I had to go through radiation, chemo, which didn't bother me at all. And this was 5 years ago that I did that.
Okay.
So today, I am living with it. I consider myself a thriver more than a survivor because as much as my faith holds me and held me, I had to believe that what they were telling me, that we can take care of this, you're going to come through it, I had to believe.
Yes.
So I did believe, here I am today, and I have always been an advocate of talking about things. People share, some people don't, which is their right, but I believe in communication. I believe that as women, especially African American women,
Yes.
that we need to know our history.
Exactly.
Our history does not dictate that just because someone in your family, mother, sister, or whatever had breast cancer that you're going to get it. But at least you have some type of information that you can kind of store away, that if something does come up, you can at least know that there's a family history and that information can be shared.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that insight. I didn't know that side of it. So you spoke a little bit about where you work and also just your journey itself and how you handled it. So I was wondering if you could tell me just a little bit more about your support system, meaning your caregivers, your family, your work community, because we spend a lot of time in those particular realms of life. So I was wondering if you could just kind of touch on, has that been a critical part of your journey?
Well, in a way it has. I mean, as a person who does not mind sharing my journey. Some people are really interesting in how they approach it.
Yes.
Someone asked me, well, what type of cancer did you have? And I was somewhat annoyed at that because it really doesn't matter. Cancer is cancer.
Exactly.
And when somebody tells you those 3 words, you have cancer, you don't really think about the kind of cancer you have. It's just that you have cancer.
Exactly.
But as far as my support system, my mother, who passed away earlier this year,
So sad.
she was always with me. She couldn't come to be with me because she had multiple sclerosis. So she was pretty much bedridden. But all the time that both times that I went through this, she was very supportive, and it was like it was going to be okay because she didn't really get upset and worked up about it. She just said, well, you do what you need to do, you just pray, and you just have faith and believe. So I did that, and I really think that that's what carried me through and continues to carry me through now. I do have a girlfriend in Atlanta, and I'm going to say this to say that I had to learn how to be a patient, if you will. If you are used to doing things by yourself, for yourself, then it's hard to let someone come in and help you. But she called me one day. She got upset with me because I didn't tell her.
I understand.
And she just said, well, I'm coming. And I'm like, well, you don't have to come. I'm coming. And at that moment, it's like, okay,
That's what we do.
let her come, because I also learned that when people want to give you their blessings, let them do it. Because at the end of the day, I couldn't even make my bed because I really couldn't move my right arm. This side was really kind of tender and sore, so I let her come. But again, I learned from that you have to let people give you their blessings. And you have to realize that no matter how strong you are, you do need help, and feel blessed that you have people who are willing to help you.
Yes, yes. So I touched a little bit about the fact that Karen and I discovered during one early morning for the American Cancer Society's Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk that my son and I participate as volunteers in the survivor tent. And this particular morning in May, she happened to walk in, and again, like I shared, we have our saying walk of life through Black Girls Run, and we're huggers, so we hugged it out.
Yeah.
And we started sharing, and she began to tell me that she knew my mom. So I had shared a little bit about my journey and my mom's remission and things of that nature. And I would just like to know if you wouldn't mind sharing with those who are listening with us how you became acquainted with my mom, since you talked about knowing her and your journey with your mom being present, for you during your time.
Years ago, I worked for Blue Cross, and I met your mother. I knew your mother, and then it came through conversation that she had breast cancer and that she had passed. And that was really the first person that I ever knew that had breast cancer. So, if it's something that you aren't familiar with, you're feeling sad, but you really don't hold it to heart because it's not affecting you, someone in your family. But then as time goes on, you learn that sometimes things happened back then and they come to pass later. And then I found out from a very good friend of mine who knows everything about the city and people, that you were her daughter.
Wow.
And that was like, oh, I know Dana, and I knew Judy. So it's like the world is smaller, and you say about the 6 degrees of separation. Yeah. Yes, so as I said, she was the very first one that I had ever heard of that had died from breast cancer.
And just the fact that you even mentioned that, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but until my mom had become diagnosed and succumbed to her battle, I knew of it, but had never experienced anyone personally who had been affected in that way. And it was after that discovery and her death that it became important to me to make certain that I became well educated about it, and also an advocate, and have continued on that journey for the last 17 years. Having never been diagnosed myself, but making it important, and as you stated, as a Black woman, it was important for me to know as much as I could know. But not only just as a Black woman, but just for women in general, and making certain that there was a voice. So I thank you for sharing that aspect of it. We also kind of touched on our walk of life through BGR, and through Black Girls Do Run. There are a number of things that we discussed when we're on the pavement, and a lot of them because we come from all different walks of life, some in education, some in the dental field, some in teaching, and etc. And I was just wondering if you could possibly just touch on anything that you may have experienced. I'm not certain when you came into BGR. I came in the summer of 2014.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering if you came in around the time when your cancer came back, if there were any other special circumstances that you had to adhere to while you were, running and discovering your health.
No, I came to BGR in 2013. One of my close girlfriends, Crystal, was involved in it, and she asked me about joining, and I did. Now, through BGR, what I really love about Black Girls Run is the fact that, as you say, women from all walks of life. It is a group of women who encourage, who support, who really just share their living and their life with you. And that was one of the things that kept me in Black Girls Running. I'm somewhat of a lapsed member now, but I still maintain my connections with Black members, with Black women who do run, walk, jog, however they do to get to where they need to be. So I am active on the Facebook page with Black Girls Run. Every once in a while I will get out and walk with them. I consider myself a serial starter in the sense that I do the walk before you run pretty much almost every year that I was being more active. I did run one 5K, and it's just the fact that, as I say, the women are very supportive. They're very loving. And so that was one of the reasons why I really took to Black Girls Run.
Did you find, having joined in 2013, that when your cancer came back in 2015, that you had to adjust in any way as far as the items of clothing that you wore, or how you were able to participate just based from a health standpoint?
Well, when it started, after I started going through chemo and radiation, that really wasn't bad. But when I had my surgeries, I somewhat had to limit my events. One particular run that was coming up was the chocolate 5K in Chicago. I was all set to run it. It's like that was the first time that I was going to run a really big 5K.
Right.
I had just had surgery. And I thought, well, maybe I can just go and have something around me where people wouldn't, get close to me. But then I talked to my doctor. My doctor says, no, you cannot do it. I don't even want you to go and be in the crowd with people, because I don't want to take a chance of someone bumping into you. So some of the women knew. And again, it wasn't that it was secret, but it was like, I was in my head with breast cancer, especially having it for the second time.
So was it more from your doctor's perspective, and I know not being a physician, you maybe, can't either mine, but just from your conversations with your doctor, was it more just because of just the sensitiveness of your breast tissue, or was it just a concern of you were still newly diagnosed and now this run was coming up, that was more of the sensitive nature of you not participating?
It was more the sensitivity from surgery, and you're in pain.
Okay.
And the last thing that you want is for somebody to even blow on you, because I'm feeling that would hurt as well. So I just felt it was best. Sometimes you get to where you can't follow your feelings, or you shouldn't follow your feelings, and I just stayed home. And I was really upset about that because I really wanted to participate.
So, if we can, just as a final word,
Mhm.
I was wondering if you could provide our audience who may be viewing with us at this moment, and they could be from all across the country, we hope, at this point. And just wondering if you could share from your perspective any thoughts and or encouraging words, as we may have some women or men who may be newly affected by breast cancer through a recent diagnosis or going through remission.
To that I would say, number one, get your mammograms. Do not pass those up. I had even decided that I would go with women, and I even put it out there that if you've never had a
That's
mammogram, I would go with you. A lot of women are afraid, but it's like, be afraid, but go do it, because that's what saved my life, was going to get a mammogram. I also feel that, as I say, you don't have to talk about your health. That is your business. But to me, the words that you say could be of great benefit to another woman who either is afraid, who doesn't know what to do, who maybe don't have the support that I or other women are blessed to have in our life. Talk about it, and you never know that by talking, you could be saving someone's life.
Exactly. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me today and having a seat at the table and sharing your perspective with us on this sensitive subject, but a subject that people should know more about and from this side of the table. So again, thank you all for joining us. And this has been another episode of Pink Perspectives, powered by the Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dana Johnson, and once again, joining me today was Karen. So thank you again for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Please like, share, or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and now Twitter. And we'd also like for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll find all of that information on our website, thepinktabletalk.org. Thank you. The Pink Table Talk will be offering our fabulously scented, custom labeled Pink Table Talk candle. Each one hand poured by Cheyenne Candles as a symbol of continuous support to the causes and awareness of breast cancer. The candle light, we'd like to say, represents an eternal flame that will burn in memory to the lives lost and in commemoration to those who continue the fight with cancer and our never-ending crusade to bring awareness. Proceeds from purchasing go to the building of the Pink Table Talk advocacy and outreach, as well as our ability to support other programs and agencies in kind. Thank you for joining us.